Primitive organic garden. Today I'm just going to do a very quick video update about the different tomato varieties that I'm growing this season. This year has been, we had a very warm winter, we had a very dry spring. This summer has been exceptionally wet. A lot of my crops aren't doing very well because there's so much water. The tomatoes seem to be doing okay. I've been picking about this many tomatoes every day. I've been trying to eat, 20 or 25 tomatoes per day. I wanted to do a quick comparison. These are the 8 different varieties of tomatoes that I'm growing this year. I always grow red cherries. They're very reliable. I generally always grow yellow pears. They're also very reliable, heavy producers. The rest of the tomatoes are things I don't necessarily always grow, but I wanted to include a couple sandwich slicers, some of these large, very sweet old heirlooms. I came up with a quick chart to kind of rate the tomatoes that I grow. I wrote down the variety names here in the first column. Then we have a column for yield, vigor, taste, and then the average of these three. Generally, the highest yielding tomato I've ever grown is the yellow pear. Each individual tomato is very small, but the plants are just absolutely prolific, so the total yield in terms of pounds of tomatoes you get is probably much higher than any other variety that I know of. I didn't want to give it a 10 because I'm sure there's other varieties I don't know of that possibly yield higher than the yellow pear. But in the decade or so I've been gardening, I've grown over 100 tomato varieties, and the yellow pear is probably the highest yielding I've seen. Next we have the column vigor. Vigor is probably a nested variable with yield because obviously if a plant is extremely high yielding, it's also going to be a vigorous plant, but I did separate these because I do feel like they are slightly different things, and every once in a while you do run into a plant that is, high yielding for its particular size, but maybe it's not a very vigorous plant. Maybe it doesn't grow very prolifically. Some of your patio cherry tomatoes kind of fit this description. The last column is taste. I thought about including, columns for things like disease resistance and other different traits of interest, but, a lot of that is fairly uncommon, so I just wanted to kind of look at 3 important variables: yield, vigor, and taste. So the highest scoring variety, surprisingly to me, was a variety called black plum. I've only grown this maybe a couple times. The fruits are extremely sweet, very juicy. I've lost quite a lot of these to squirrels. They seem to be popular with squirrels. The plants are largely unremarkable. The yield is not quite as high as something like your yellow pear or a red cherry, but being a small variety of tomato and an indeterminate plant, the yield is quite high. I gave it an 8. The plants are decently vigorous. The taste, because they're exceptionally sweet, it was one of the highest rated tomatoes for taste. It got an 8.5. Overall score 8.1, 8.2. That is the highest scoring tomato of all the varieties I grew this year. Looking back at the red cherry, we talked about how the red cherry was the second highest yield, right next to the yellow pear. The red cherry is almost as vigorous as the yellow pear. The red cherry tastes slightly better than the yellow pear. The red cherry and the yellow pear end up having the same overall score because what the yellow pear loses in taste, it makes up for in terms of vigor and yield, being half a percentage point higher in each one of those. Now this tomato here I think is called flower ball. I'm not too familiar with this one. The yield seemed to be slightly above average. I gave it a 6. Plants are decently vigorous. The taste is pretty good, 6.5, largely unremarkable. I probably won't really grow that again. It was nothing special. This next variety here is one that I've actually been working on. I named this one Loquat because the fruits are yellowish orange and about the size of a large plump loquat. They're also ridiculously sweet, probably the sweetest tomato I've tasted. I gave it an 8.5 for taste because it has such high levels of sweetness. Unfortunately, this tomato has 0 shelf life. It melts very quickly, possibly due to its high sugar, low acid content. If there were a column for, other traits that could be important commercially, the fact that this thing, melts within 24 hours of being picked off the plant, that's not necessarily a good trait, but I didn't include anything that would capture that, so The Loquat, there was nothing remarkable about the yield, just got an average 5. The vigor of the plants maybe slightly above average, but the taste, because it's so sweet, it got an 8.5. Overall score 6.5. I don't know what tomato this is. I grow a lot of different varieties every year. A lot of times I just toss seeds out. I really don't know what this is. Nothing remarkable there. It's very, very tasty. It got an 8 for taste. Next we have the black from Tula. This is a Russian selection of a large sandwich slicer tomato. It's a potato leaf variety. By the way, all of these are indeterminate. I generally don't grow determinate tomato varieties if I can help it. This black from Tula, the yield was slightly below average. It got a 4 on yield. Perhaps that's because I'm growing it in a climate that it's not well suited for. Being a Russian selection, this plant is probably a short season plant that's tolerant of high altitudes and cool temperatures. I'm growing it in a swamp. The vigor of the plant, slightly above average, got a 6.5. Most of your potato leaf varieties are slightly more vigorous than the average tomato. The taste was absolutely unbelievable, got an 8.5. I feel like this plant might be a slightly more dynamic hyperaccumulator of some potassium, because this tomato is very salty. You don't have to salt it. It was a very salty tomato on its own, probably due to its increased uptake of potassium. The last tomato we have is the Brandywine. You can see it's deeply ribbed. This is one of your classic heirloom tomatoes. The Brandywine plants, again, the yield was slightly below average, got a 4.5 for yield. The vigor of the plant, also a potato leaf variety, got a 7 in terms of vigor. It was a pretty vigorous plant. Taste, again, Brandywines are a classic sweet sandwich slicer, heirloom, amazing taste, got an 8.5 for taste. Overall score 6.66. The conclusions of this variety trial this summer, where I grew 8 varieties. If you're growing for nutrition and survival, you need to be growing, mostly red cherries and yellow pears, because they're prolific in terms of yield. That's how you're going to get the best bang for your buck in terms of pulling the most nutrients out of the smallest amount of land area. Grow the cherries. But overall, the best scoring tomato was the black plum, simply because it's fairly high yielding, vigorous, and just has an unbelievable taste. If you're only going to grow one sandwich slicer, it looks like the Brandywine scored a little bit higher than this Russian selection, the black from Tula. The Brandywine is also probably a little bit more adapted to the southeastern United States, whereas the black from Tula is, more of a tomato that's suited for European or northern North American climates. Again, I don't want this video to be too long. We can go out to the garden later and look at all, the different tomatoes. I got about 45 different tomato plants this year, 8 different varieties. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, I have about 8 different varieties of tomato spread across 45 plants. Probably 20 of the plants are red cherry. I got, 5 or 6 yellow pear. I got 6 black plum. I think I only have maybe 1 or 2 of these flower balls. I think I only have 1 loquat. I don't know what this is. There's like 2 of these. I got a handful of these plants here. But overall, there's like 45 plants, mostly red cherries. We might be able to go outside later. Most of the garden is flooded, but hopefully we can go out there later and look at some of these plants up close. But for now, I just wanted to show y'all how I kind of evaluate my tomatoes each year. The other thing I want to mention is that, while I did score these fairly consistently in terms of fruit characteristics, the plants are grown in different environments, which could affect things like yield and vigor, although it probably doesn't really affect taste very much. I always hedge my bets. I plant some of my tomatoes in the ground. I plant some in raised beds. I plant some in hugulkultur mounds. I plant some in buckets. I plant some in clay pots.